Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. We're going to have a conversation today about listening to our inner teacher. Just that. As simple as that may sound, we make it extraordinarily complicated, inordinately so. I mean, we mess it up and obscure it and run and hide and go off and do life. So we think. In other words, we do what passes for our lives here in the world, which amounts, when you honestly think about it, to doing the same things over and over again in slightly different forms, slightly different modality here, a little different modality there, a little something different here. Yes, new presentation here. It's the same thing over and over again, and we're still expecting a different result to come from it. And the answer is already given us. We've only to accept it. That sounds very simple, doesn't it? So, discussions like this are necessary on the path. They really are. And we find them necessary because we're so caught up in doing life here in the world that we don't see where the solution really is. It's inside us, it's part of us. The answer is here, and it's built in a manner of speaking. It's in our mind. Remember that this course is a course in mind training. So we're training ourselves to pay attention to only this part of our mind that knows who we are. Yet we find it so hard. And we find ourselves so distraught and confused that we tell ourselves that we can't hear the voice for God. We can't hear the Holy Spirit. We can't hear Jesus. We can't hear our inner teacher. Well, if you really are telling yourself that, consider that you're not yet ready to hear only your inner teacher, and you're afraid to hear our inner teacher. Don't feel singled out. You're not singled out because you're not alone. Ever. May feel like it, but you're not. And this is what happens to us. We're afraid to really go there with ourselves. We're afraid to want the peace of God and only that. We think, okay, well, yeah, maybe not today. I mean, this course makes perfect sense. It's very simple and it makes perfect sense. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I better just try this thing over here and that thing over there and go off and do life for a little while. You know, we have this conversation with ourselves. I mean, don't we, honestly? We're invited to bring this honesty to the table on the spiritual path. We really are. As I'm fond of saying, here it is coming up again, it's an adult endeavor. It's for grown-ups because in order to set all of our BS and our drama aside, we've got to look at it, raise it to the light, bring it to the light so that the light can shine it away. We're not able, we find, to keep these little pockets of darkness to ourselves. Try though we may, and though we may really, really want to, we must bring it all to the light if we really wish to awaken. And perhaps you're ready for that. and perhaps not. And you know what? That's really okay. Again, don't feel singled out because you're not single and you're not out. There is no one out there. There is only perfect oneness. So, what we say in this video and all of them applies to every single living thing. There is only perfect oneness after all. It only appears that there's multiplicity. So, questions often arise, and they're very good questions here on the path. How do I know if it's really the Holy Spirit speaking to me? Because I'm hearing conflicting messages. Yeah, right. We all do. This question has come up again recently. So let's take a few minutes and answer this and address this in the context of this conversation. We think that the voice for God, by which the Holy Spirit's known throughout A Course in Miracles, including other names, by the way, many other names. So you may call your inner teacher whatever you want, call it your counsel. I don't know, call it the High Council if you want to. Call it your guide or guides, Mike, Elvis, Sue, Benny. Those are all just collections of sounds. A name is simply a label. It in of itself is symbolic. It's nothing. We made them all up. So call your inner teacher what you will. Its voice speaks to all of us constantly. It is part of our mind. The Holy Spirit is part of you. It is not outside you. There is nothing outside you. Please take that away from today's conversation. We think that this voice is hard to hear. We're fond of saying it's hard to hear and that it's some great mystery. If that's the way you feel, you want the mystery. You want it to remain obscured. Do you want to actually see? And only you can answer that. There are many ways that the Holy Spirit speaks to us. After all, it's part of our mind. So, not everybody gets a crystal clear voice in their ear, speaking clearly to them, unequivocally, in a language that they understand. Not everybody gets it like that. What's much more common is that we'll get a feeling, we'll get an intuitive hit, or a deep inner knowing. We'll simply know something, will be directed to something, and it will be compelling. We call them signs sometimes. It may be something that we see with the body's eyes when we look out at the world that reminds us of our inner teacher's message, that the Son of God is forever guiltless. Guiltless. It may remind us of that. We may see a billboard when we're out driving on the highway. We may hear on one of our playlists or the radio a song that reminds us of the fact that the Son of God is free and one. One. There are many things that may remind us of that. A passing cloud may remind us of this. A bird may remind us of this. Something that someone says may remind us of this, and you may find yourself saying something that all of a sudden, boom, rings true. That's your inner teacher speaking to you. There are many different ways. You could read something, you could watch a pixelated image on your screen, a talking head, and listen to it and heed the message that appears to be coming from its mouth, but it is in fact coming from your inner teacher. So there are many ways that the Holy Spirit communicates with us. For each person, there are certain methods that tend to predominate. That's only a difference in outward form. The content of the message is exactly and precisely and always and eternally the same. The Son of God is guiltless. There is no cause for guilt, therefore it can have no effect. There is no cause for alarm or fear. The separation never occurred. There is no separation of any kind. And to listen to our inner teacher is to listen to the voice for God that will teach us nothing but how to be happy. Do you want that? It's a yes no question. Maybe means no in this case. It means that you're not fully in a place or the state of mind to want the peace of God and nothing else. And that is fine. If that's where you are, not a problem. You're listening to this message, which tells me that at some point, whether you were consciously aware of it or not, you said yes to the Holy Spirit's call. You've answered it, and you've done so a lot more than once. Or why would this particular content be of any interest to you at all in a world of other videos? Well, let's just leave it at that. There's a lot of other content out there, and here you are. That should tell you a lot. Tells me something. You are ready for this message. So it would be very kind of you to heed this message and do as your inner teacher suggests you do. And he will teach you only how to be happy, and there is no mystery. What mystery? If we think that God is mysterious, it's because we do not choose to see him. We don't choose to know him. We choose instead to run off and think we're individual self-sustaining survival units. If that's where you find yourself today, listening to this material, maybe for the first time, maybe for the 5,000th time, so be it. Not a problem. Remember that the separation never occurred. This is a dream from which we're waking up. You could choose to wake up sooner rather than later, if you want to. Do you? I can't answer that question for you. You must answer that yourself. We all know what the ultimate answer is, because there is no separation of any kind. We're all perfectly at home, awake in God. We're simply waking up to that fact. And when we choose to do that is largely up to us right now. Eventually, we all will. And if you don't believe that, that's not a problem. No problem at all. It may not be in this lifetime. And indeed, we all know people that don't appear at all likely to wake up anytime soon. And you may be thinking the same thing about yourself. Yet, let me say that it's very important that you're here. This is significant in ways that you may not even imagine. Not only are you interested in this thing that we refer to as the spiritual path, but you're also interested in A Course in Miracles, a direct approach that tells it like it is. There is no death. The Son of God is free. There is only perfect ones. The separation, this perceived separation from God, never occurred. It's impossible. Now, here in the world, we appear to have imagined it, and let's all be very honest with ourselves. If we don't want the peace of God, and only that, then we want the illusion. Each of us has the choice right now in the present moment. There is no other time. In fact, there's no time at all because there's never been any separation, and time is a separation device. Just think about that for a second. 1 second appears to follow another, they appear to be separate. Space is also a separation device. That one may be a little bit easier to grasp with the intellectual thinking mind. We appear to be separate from our apparently separate brothers by these weird longitudinal slices called time zones, which we've completely arbitrarily made up and continue to manipulate. It's weird. It's nothing. There is no separation of any kind. This can be extraordinarily mind-boggling. Okay. As we study and practice this course, there really are moments where it feels like our mind is blown in a good way. It's not the way we were raised and conditioned, is it? Yet, has the way that you've been conditioned brought you the peace of God and only that? When you honestly answer no, then you're invited to consider how you wish to spend this moment, which teacher you choose to follow, that which will teach you nothing but how to be happy, that will show you who you are and teach you under its loving guidance to set aside all illusion. Would you follow that teacher, or would you follow the teacher that doesn't know what it's doing, that wants you to dabble and never find the truth because it knows that you would set it aside as a useless teacher, utterly and completely useless and non existent? Would you follow the teacher that does not even exist, that is a simple fabrication of a deluded and confused mind? Or would you follow your right mind? That's the choice that you have right now. So, quite clearly, when we watch a video like this or read about it, we know the choice that would bring us happiness. So let's choose it, shall we? Thank you, as always, for joining. So, nobody ever said this was shallow. Nobody ever said it was one of those things that will bring you happiness for 15 minutes and then have it dissipate. No, this course is to help you awaken. Is that what you want? And I hope that you've answered yes. And I hope somehow that these last few minutes have inspired you to practice and to look deeper, and question what you really want. We all must do this on the path. I mean, this can land, of course, many different ways. It can land as something really clarifying or uplifting, or it could grate on your nerves and trigger you. So be it. However it lands, this is the question for all of us. Do we want the problem or do we want the answer? Capital. Hmm? The answer is given us already. It's part of our mind. So let's listen to it, shall we? All right. So I invite you to subscribe and join the channel if you have not here. This is the prompt in the corner of your screen. So go ahead and click that. Several videos appear each week. It's a growing community and it is most definitely international. So thank you to all of you who have recently joined us. If you have not yet, please do that. We'd love to have you. Questions and comments are always more than welcome here, by the way. So if you've got a question, please feel welcome to leave it. And you will not be the only one that benefits from it. There are people on the other side of the world whom you're highly unlikely to meet in person in this lifetime that will also benefit from it. So you can positively influence the trajectory of many, many people around the world in many different ways. The magnitude of this, not a single one of us can actually fully comprehend. So questions are more than welcome. I thank you, as always, for joining, and I will speak to all of you very, very soon.